everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of What to Buy. And I've got a bit of a problem here. See, I want to buy Pokemon Snap, but I can't decide whether I want to buy it physically or digitally. You know, if I buy the digital version, I can play the game as soon as it comes out, and I won't ever have to worry about losing it. But if I buy it physically, I can play this on any device that I want to, and I also have the option to use this game case as a makeshift dinner plate. You know, I've had Wii Music for over 10 years, and in all that time, I've never gotten as much use of this game as I am right now.
Physical versus digital games, a question that hasn't been around for a long time, but has led to plenty of wonderful conversations across the internet. Should I buy the physical version of a game, or should I go with the digital version? And I know what you're all thinking, yes, this also applies to Monopoly. Some people will tell you, oh man, you have to buy the physical copies. What if you want to sell it one day? To which I respond with, does it really look like I'm gonna sell my games anytime soon? Other people will tell you that digital is the way to go. Having all your games available on one device is beyond convenient. And that's nice and all, but NBA 2K20 is 32 gigabytes of storage. If I have to buy a $20 micro SD card just to play a digital copy of a game that's $60, why don't I just buy a physical copy of the game? I can spend the $20 to buy 3 other games that I'm never going to play. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing incorrect with either of these statements. I'm personally guilty of falling victim to both of these methods. Like just recently, I bought a physical copy of A Hat in Time on the Switch, even though I already have the digital version on the PS4. If they release this game on a Google Home, look, I'd buy that too. I'm sure there's a place that I can put my debit card in here.
So I thought it would be a great idea to take a look at both physical and digital games and what makes either option so enticing. Who am I kidding? I'm just here to show off my game collection.
Yes, anybody who knows me is aware that I'm preferential to physical games. I can't go 5 minutes without shoving one of these things in front of a camera. To me, there's just nothing like picking up a game for the first time and having a physical copy in your hands. There's an art to these things. I've always been fascinated by what the game case actually looks like and the packaging that can come inside. Like, look at this. The instruction booklet is shaped like the item in the game. The developers are already trying to pop you into the world and you haven't even popped your game into the system. Sometimes I'll pick out a game and look at the box art and think, oh man, this looks like the game for me. Like listen, I don't know anything about Gravity Rush 2, but just looking at this box art, I know I'm gonna have fun. Of course, that also can have the opposite effect. I really liked the Fire Emblem Three Houses box art until why is your sword like that? Also, why are you upside down? There's no context in the game for this. No matter what way you slice it, there is nothing a digital game can do to match this feeling of having a tangible physical copy of the source material. Which means it's so much more frustrating when you can't seem to find it.
Yes, we've all been there before. You really want to play your version of Moonlighters on the PS4 by 11-bit Studios, but then you finally go and search for your game for 3 hours, and once you finally find it, it turns out that it's just a copy of the Flintstones Bedrock Bowling?
Yes, this isn't a problem with digital games. There's no way I can actually lose these titles unless I lose the system itself. Now I could confuse which of my 2 Wiis has my copy of Blaster Master Overdrive, but nowadays most of your games can transfer over from console to console. There is no overstating how convenient it is to have every digital game available right on your home console. People with kids who've committed the 7th sin by leaving their copy of Mario Golf's Toadstool Tour out of the case when it's literally right there aren't a problem anymore when you can never lose Mario Golf. It is very easy to lose track of physical games. Sure, cases are a lot easier to keep up with, but how am I going to keep up with all of these DS games? This is smaller than the size of a Ritz cracker. You have discs, but what if the game gets scratched when you take it out, or even worse? With digital games, the most detrimental thing to happen is I'll lose my account information, and usually companies are pretty good at solving these problems. Now, convenience doesn't just stop at gameplay itself. Picking out a game with a digital storefront has never been easier. Not only do you have every game laid out in whatever order you choose, but you have an entire library of resources right at your disposal. Game reviews, trailers, developer interviews, in-depth information on everything this game has to offer is right on your TV. Of course, you can have all of this convenience from your phone in a game store as well, but come on, this is so much easier. Plus, I could go all the way to a game store just for the retailer to accidentally give me the wrong version of a game. And this actually isn't a joke. I have both sequels to the original title, but the Going Commando case for each game. Now, one good point that I always hear brought up is that physical games, for the most part, are cheaper than digital games. And there's a lot of truth to that. Take your local game store. Most of the time, games that are full price on digital stores are much more expensive than their physical counterparts. Sure, the game is cheaper than if you buy it digitally, but if you're getting a cheaper game, odds are it's probably either used or not that good in the first place. Sometimes the game doesn't have a physical case. You get these cheaply made refurbished boxes and a sticker on the front. and sometimes the game doesn't exist in the first place. However, most of the time, if you're searching for a lower price, you don't have to have the game right away. For example, I've been searching for Steins Gate Elite for months now, but I ask myself, do I really want to spend $60 on an anime game that I already know the story to?
Oh, absolutely.
Digital games also don't go on sales too often. 1-2 Switch is still $50. Every once in a while, we'll get a good deal on a title, but most of the time you have to keep your eye out for it. 2K21 for $20? Who can argue that price? Me, 2K20 is $60. Most of the time with these deals, you just have to keep your eyes peeled for whenever they appear. Like I got the Handsome Collection for free with PlayStation Plus, but on Steam it's still $60. Look, I know I'm an idiot, but I'm not stupid. But if there's one thing that truly makes digital gaming worth it, it's subscription services. Now, subscription services aren't something that I personally indulge in, but I'm not going to say this isn't a fantastic option for millions of people. Being able to play any game that you want out of a massive library of games for one flat fee a month? It's basically like if you paid a car lot $200 a month, but had access to drive any car on the lot anytime you want it. Yes, technically you don't own any of these games, but you're also not tied down to any specific fees. Even in the worst case scenario, if you lose your console, you don't have any initial investments other than the time you spent with the games. But if you're anything like me, you buy physical games because you have a specific mindset of what you want in a game. You don't buy Xenoblade Chronicles 2 if you're not wanting to put 100 hours into a game. This to me is well worth a $60 purchase. You get 100 hours of playtime, a physical case and artwork, and when you're done with it, you can even return it and get money back if you want to. This is the main reason I hear people talk about why they buy physical games. You're done with your copy of a game, just toss it out, and whenever the next one comes out, get the new one. Me, I'm not a big fan of selling my games. Now that's basically just the collector in me talking, but if I buy a game, I know that I'm gonna get my money's worth and probably come back to whatever that game is at some point. You can't sell digital games unless you just so happen to have a PlayStation 4 with a PT demo. With physical games, I can trade, borrow, sell, and do whatever I want with these games. I am in no way tied to a specific purchase. But then again, just look at how many games Microsoft has available.
There are a ton of different things to think about when you're trying to decide whether you want a physical or a digital copy of a game. What's the convenience factor? What space do I have? Which one is going to be the cheaper option? But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter.
Listen, I could talk about the differences between physical and digital games all day and all the factors involved in that decision. But how you buy a game ultimately comes down to your personal preference. Parents who have kids who want to play a different game every 5 minutes would find Xbox Game Pass to be a fantastic and much cleaner option. Meanwhile, people on a budget that have the time to devote to selling and trading their games, there's so much to love and appreciate about that level of dedication. Personally, I will always be a physical gamer. I have a ton of stories wrapped around all of these different games, whether I love them to death or have a mile-long page of criticisms. I can't find myself to sell any of these games. Also, anybody who tells you that you shouldn't sell your games, there is nothing wrong with doing that. Not everyone has the luxury or space to have hundreds of games lying around. Plus, not everyone gets attached to games in the same way others do. It's your game, your case, your product, and you get to decide what to do with it, which is the same as digital. If you want to buy the Tomb Raider collection for $200 and then never touch it, the only person who can judge you is yourself.
If there's one thing that I've learned regarding physical games or digital games is that it doesn't matter which one you want to prefer. As long as you're playing a game and having fun, that's really all that matters. Sure, people are going to prefer digital games over physical games, and of course, like myself, I'm always going to buy physical as long as the option's still there. But as long as an option is convenient for you and it works, there is no problem with buying a physical version or a digital version as long as it makes you happy. But I do have a problem that I want to address because I went to GameStop the other day to sell some of my games and they wouldn't accept my copy of Wii Music because apparently you can't return games if they have macaroni. Actually, Flintstones... Hi, YouTube.